To look back at the history of the Mediterranean is to observe a symbiosis of man and nature that may be about to end. This book does not deny the importance of winds and currents, but aims to bring to the fore the human experience of crossing the Mediterranean or of living in the port towns and islands that depended for their existence on the sea. The human hand has been more important in molding the history of the Mediterranean than Brudel was ever prepared to admit. The book is full of political decisions, navies setting out to conquer Syracuse or Carthage, Acre or Famagusta, Minorca or Malta. Why some of these places were strategically important did depend to a significant extent on geography. Not just wind and waves, but other limitations. Fresh food and water might last a couple of weeks on a merchant vessel, but were too bulky to load in great quantities on a war galley that had little space to spare. This simple fact meant that control of the open sea was a very tough challenge, at least in the age of sail. Without access to friendly ports, where supplies could be taken on board and ships could be careened, no power, however many warships it possessed, could lord itself over sea routes. Conflicts for control of the Mediterranean thus have to be seen as struggles for mastery over its coasts, ports, and islands, rather than as battles over open spaces. To manage the almost constant threat of piracy, it was often necessary to enter into murky deals with the pirates and their masters, permitting free passage to merchant shipping in return for gifts and bribes. Advanced positions were invaluable. The situation of Corfu ensured that it was coveted over many centuries by those who sought to control entry into the Adriatic. The Catalans and then the British constructed a line of possessions across the Mediterranean that served their economic and political interests well. Oddly, though, the places chosen as ports often provided poor harbors. Physical advantages were by no means the only consideration. Alexandria was difficult of access through often choppy seas. Medieval Barcelona offered little more than a beach. Pisa, nothing but a few small roadsteads close to the Arno estuary. And even into the 1920s, ships reaching Jaffa had to unload out at sea. The harbor at Messina lay close to the rushing waters of what classical commentators identified as the twin terrors of Scylla and Charybdis. Human history involves the study of the irrational as well as the rational, decisions made by individuals or groups that are hard to understand at a remove of centuries or millennia, and that may have been hard to understand at the time those decisions were made. Yet small decisions, like the flutter of a butterfly's wings, could have massive consequences. A pope's speech at Clermont in France in 1095, loaded with vague but impassioned rhetoric, could unleash 500 years of crusades, disputes between rival Turkish commanders, in contrast to charismatic leadership on the Christian side, could bring surprise defeat upon Ottoman armies and navies, as at Malta in 1565. And even then, Spain was slower to send aid than the emergency demanded, risking loss of command of the waters around one of its prized possessions, Sicily. Battles were won against the odds. The victories of brilliant naval commanders such as Lysander, Roger de Loria, and Horatio Nelson transformed the political map of the Mediterranean and frustrated the imperial plans of those in Athens, Naples, or Napoleonic France. Merchant princes placed their own profit above the cause of the Christian faith. The roulette wheel spins, and the outcome is unpredictable, but human hands spin the wheel.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.